Top 10 oil-producing countries in the world. Rank 1. Saudi Arabia 11.75 million barrels per day. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia produces a whopping 13.24% of all the oil produced daily in the entire world. Considering that they sit on over 260 billion barrels of oil, the second highest total after Venezuela. The fortune of the House of Saud appears secure. When accounting for energy production including natural gas and biofuels, Saudi Arabia is already behind the United States. Rank 2. United States 10.59 million barrels per day. In a disappointment to Americans everywhere, the U.S. sits at second place with production equal to 12% of the total. Because of its high-tech economy and stable investment climate, the U.S. is at the forefront of non-conventional energy extraction including shale oil and tar sands. These types of oil drilling have reshaped the landscape. The Bakken oil development in North Dakota now shines as brightly at night as regional neighbors like Minneapolis St. Paul and Chicago. Rank 3. Russia 10.3 million barrels per day. Russia remains a massive producer of energy with 11.64% of world production. Considering that Russia comprises about of the Earth's landmass, this is perhaps not surprising. Nor is it surprising that Russia has not fully tapped all of its reserves in the far eastern Siberia, let alone the resources currently trapped under Arctic sea ice. All told, Russia's reserves likely sit north of 100 billion barrels when including the Arctic oil. Rank 4. China 4.19 billion barrels per day. An unheralded but major producer, China has steadily increased production of the last 50 years and currently sits at 4.7% of global output. With its huge population and booming economy, the production is still not enough like the U.S. China continues to consume more than it produces and thus importing the balance. China's reserves are modest at 20.35 billion barrels. But with the implementation of hydraulic fracturing and other technology, these seem likely to increase in the future. Rank 5. Iran 4.13 million barrels per day. Coming in at number 5 is U.S. adversary Iran, producing over 4.5% of daily output. Much of Iran's oil is conventional, meaning fancy technology is not necessary to get the most bang for their bucket of oil. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries member, Iran also holds some power to help influence oil prices through OPEC's cartel actions. Rank 6. Canada 3.92 million barrels per day. The country best known for maple leaves and moose also produces vast quantities of oil. In fact, despite having less than 5% of the world's population, our neighbors to the north produce well over 4% of world production. Canada is well placed to continue for the indefinite future. Much of the current reserves are in tar sands. Rank 7. United Arab Emirates 3.23 million barrels per day. The UAE, a federation of 7 emirates, the most famous of which are Dubai and Abu Dhabi, is a very oil-rich part of the Persian Gulf. Altogether, the Emirates produce 3.6% of global daily output, and their reserves will last for decades at current rates of extraction. With 98 billion barrels, the Emirs appear set. Rank 8. Mexico 2.95 million barrels per day. While not thought of as an energy powerhouse, Mexico nevertheless remains the 8th largest oil producer on the planet, with over 3% of daily production. In fact, Mexico's exports are a large fraction of U.S. oil imports. Over of Mexican production is destined for U.S. gas tanks export. Rank 9. Brazil 2.8 million barrels per day. In 2006, Petrobras announced the largest oil discovery in the Western Hemisphere for decades, the offshore Lula field named for the president. Brazil produces 3.15% of the world's daily oil. Although only a tiny fraction of this is from the Lula field, a fraction likely to grow going forward. Rank 10. Kuwait 2.75 million barrels per day. The ultimate prize in the first Gulf War, instigated by Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein in 1990. Kuwait's oil fields are currently producing over 3% of global production. The wells were first tapped in 1938. And Kuwait continues to sit on reserves of at least 104 billion barrels. Although more may be extractable with better technology,